Welcome to Hope Talks podcast with Grayson Willis and Pastor Margaret Michael, where you'll hear inspiring stories that are filled with hope and good news in Jesus Christ. You can also search for our podcast on iTunes, Spotify, Google Podcasts, and TuneIn. We would love your feedback and invite you to take a short anonymous survey. You can find the link to the survey in the show notes.
Welcome to today's broadcast of Hope Talks. I'm Grayson Willis.
And I'm Pastor Margaret Michael.
Thanks for tuning in today, and today we're joined by Mandy Lawson. Mandy, how are you doing today?
I'm doing well. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, it's good to have you here today. It's been a hot minute since you've been here, right?
Yes. Yeah.
But you're familiar to Hope Talks, so welcome back.
Thank you.
Today, we have something specific we want to talk about. We want to talk about your new role at New Creation. But I thought it might be interesting because you worked here, right? Yeah. You worked here at the church and you took care of a lot of details, a lot of behind-the-scene details. We won't go into all that. But something happened and you ended up, God called you in a different direction. And so I thought it might be interesting for those listening just to hear kind of how that transpired.
Right.
And then we'll talk about what you're doing.
Yep. So I was working here in the finance office. And I had been working here for about 5 years. And, of course, when John and I moved back to the area, it just so happened that we could both land here, which is crazy because when we left Harrisonburg and moved away 13 years prior to that, we were also both working here at the church, but in very, very different roles.
Yeah.
And so it was such a blessing to have kind of a place to land and kind of like a family just all, right away. It's like coming back home. And so it was good. I have followed New Creation for years and have always felt passionate about their mission and what they're doing. And so even while I was working here, I was volunteering with New Creation for about a year on Friday mornings. And so one day I walked in and our executive director, Sabrina, said, "Hey, do you want to get paid to come here?" And I was like, "No, I have a job. I'm good. I'll just keep volunteering. It'll be fine." And then it was probably 3 or 4 days later, I just really felt like, man, I'm still thinking about this. Like, why is this so heavy on my heart? And so I just had a conversation with her. And through that, I just kind of realized that it was like the Lord was calling me to something different, that he knew that I was invested here and plugged in here and that I wouldn't just leave. And so it was almost like he had to literally hand me an opportunity. And so, it was the right thing to do. So
I remember just that struggle of you having this opportunity handed to you, like you said, but feeling loyal here. And God has a way of working out all those details.
Right.
And we can't see it. We're like, oh, how will this work? But when he calls us to something, he's the provider. He provides us everything that we need. So it was really cool, actually, to watch you just walk in that obedience and say yes to the next thing. And God is so faithful that he gives us seasons where you all didn't have to come back and search. This was a safe place to land. But as you built relationships within the community, he moved you into another place that you were invested in too. So that was beautiful just to watch that play out. And then to be on this side of it, here on the staff of the church, and how God works out the details, in ways that we could never think of or ask, as Ephesians 3 says.
So if you want to tell us about your position at New Creation, and then we can get into what New Creation is and how it got started.
Yep. So I am a Communications and Development Coordinator, which sounds fancy, I guess, but really I do all the social media. I make reels.
That I love to watch.
And I am just in charge of donor relations and keeping track of the back end of that kind of stuff, and kind of looking at what the future holds and figuring out details for that. So
that's great. So would you like to tell us a little bit about New Creation and then how it started?
So New Creation started in 2013. It started when Sabrina, our executive director, and her husband, Steve, heard about trafficking. They heard about the problem and just felt very compelled to do something about it. And so they started working with an organization in Uganda and started very small, selling paper beads like paper bead necklaces from their dining room table. And so as that progressed and they got in contact with more organizations and realized that their dining room table was not big enough to hold all of the things, and also you don't, necessarily want all the people coming to your home, they kind of knew that they needed to branch out and find a location, a building. And so they found a building on South Main Street that was formerly used for some really dark and hard things, and transformed it. It went up for auction, and the amount of money that they had to put towards it is exactly where the bid stopped. And so the building was theirs. It took a year and a half, I think, to renovate it.
I remember that renovation.
Yeah. And so a lot of people, I think, know the building that I'm talking about. And, I don't want to go into too many details.
Yes.
But when we bought the building, they took the sign that was there and just put a big banner across it that said redeemed. And so it really was a way of turning darkness into light and kind of flipping the whole property on its head. And so the shop opened in 2015. We are partnering with, right now, about 95 organizations. We've partnered with about 150 over the last 8 or 10 years. So these organizations, we get in contact with them. They sometimes reach out to us to sell their products in our shop. And so basically these organizations are working with artisans in countries all over the world, providing trade, like job training, and teaching them a trade, teaching them how to weave baskets or make jewelry or carve or, all these different things. Sewing is a big one. And so there's a lot more market here for that kind of thing than there is in Uganda. Right. You can't sell but so many paper bead necklaces. Right. And so in partnering with all these organizations and bringing the items that they're creating here to sell, when we sell, we can buy more. Right. And so in buying those things from them, that's providing fair and living wages and putting food on the table and sending their children to school. And, it's like when you empower a woman to sew and make clothes or a handbag or whatever it is, a lot of times that helps her and her family, but it also impacts the entire community because they're so close-knit. And so it's been really cool for us to hear kind of the back end stories of you guys purchased this and brought it here, but this is what it did in our community. And so that's been very impactful for us. It's like we want to keep having these partnerships because it's like, it's not just, you make something cute and we want to bring it here and people can buy it.
It's life-giving.
It's life-changing. It's sometimes life or death. So
It was cool, Mandy, that you mentioned, the sign that was put over the old building that said redeemed, because that was the first thing I thought, that this building was redeemed when New Creation bought it. Yep. And you talked about how New Creation partners with, it started in Uganda and just selling different products to help the moms and the families overseas. Talk about maybe for somebody listening, maybe they know a little bit about it or maybe they don't know a whole lot about it. What is trafficking and how is New Creation helping to bring awareness to that issue?
Yep. So trafficking, the definition is the trade of human beings through force, fraud, or coercion for the purpose of exploitation for labor, sexual purposes, or organs. And so basically it's when a person is preying on the vulnerability of somebody else. So maybe you need a place to live and you have no other options, and someone comes and says, hey, I have a great place. It'll be better than what you have. It's, I can offer you a job, a place to live. But then when you actually go with that person, the narrative is a lot different than what you thought it was going to be. And so, so anything that you trade for work or a sexual thing like that is it's considered trafficking.
Right.
Whether it's an adult or a child.
Right. Yeah.
Age doesn't seem to matter.
Right. And I think a big misconception is that it happens only in Uganda, only in, all these different places where it's like you think that people are going to be taken away to these remote locations and forced to do things. But we've seen that it's very prevalent. It's been reported in every state in the U.S., in big cities and small cities, and it's it's a lot closer than we would like to admit that it is. But yeah, very early on, Sabrina was speaking at a church. I believe it was in Elkton, and a girl came up to her afterward and said, like, I didn't know that had a name. I feel like I'm involved in that, and I didn't know it had a name. And so a lot of times it looks different than we think it might. But yeah, very prevalent.
Yeah, it's here. It's everywhere. Yeah, think about that, that young girl that comes up after that event, and all of a sudden, now that there's a definition, raising that awareness, it opens our eyes. It makes us, look at our own life and the lives of those around us. And that's what you all want. That's why you're doing this, is to just equip this community and beyond with the awareness, to open our eyes. And, I have friends that have, that's their story, what they've been redeemed from. They're fabric in this community. They're not someone who moved here from another country. And it's the hardest thing in the world they can ever tell somebody, because there's shame and there's all these things, and there's ways that they are kept silent, and to come and to have a voice and to have someone who comes and says, hey, let me tell you about this. And then they can finally, for the first time, admit it and go, hey, this was my story. I know that you all have heard that over and over. And so it is here. It is not just there. It's there, but it's here. And it's I've been just amazed at the opportunities that you all have gotten to share this, whether you want to talk into, we know that it's globally and local. We know that. We've talked about that. So how are you all working to fight that globally? We can start there.
Yep. So globally is really the piece that I was talking about with working with the organizations who are kind of really pushing back darkness and saying it's not okay that these people are in these like slave labor type situations, or like labor trafficking is a whole nother thing. It's like you are given a job and a place to live, but you can't ever pay off your place to live with the wages that you make. And so, but you're forced to keep working to keep what you have. And so it's just not appropriate treatment of human beings. It's, something that we are not okay with, even if it's people that we don't know right here in our circle. It's like, we know that those people in all those different countries are people that the Lord loves and created and has a purpose for. And to live these types of situations, we know that that's not what he has for them. And so we can't physically go to all the places we say that people want us to like go kick down brothel doors.
Right.
We just want to make sure there's not people behind them.
Yeah.
It's like we want to do what we can to provide enough dignified work and dignified opportunities that people can be in a community where they're having solid job creating things. And, it's like the community that's built in those organizations is so impactful for, not only the people running it, but for the artisans and their families. And like I said, the communities are just so impacted by every job. And so, yeah, we're very honored to partner with all the organizations that we do partner with.
Yeah, and I'm even sitting here thinking if someone's listening, they go, well, how do you know what's happening there? You all have, maybe not you personally, but these are relationships where Sabrina has traveled and seen these places and engaged these people. So could you tell us a little bit about that? Just maybe share a story, if you have one, about Sabrina traveling to one of these places and making connections so that she does know what's happening there and can she knows this is a legitimate place.
Right.
Yeah,
sure. So Moldova has been like a big focus of ours for the last 5 or 6 years. And Sabrina has been there multiple times to Art Story in Moldova. And basically in Moldova, there's just a lack of opportunity. And then everything happened with Ukraine and Russia. And so they had all these Ukrainian refugees also coming to Moldova since it borders Ukraine. And so there's this influx of people who, well, there's already people there who needed work. And then now there's all these, additional people who, some were traveling through and going to other places, but some of them stayed. And so we have felt very passionate about creating as much work as we possibly can in Moldova. And so we, I believe it was 2019, created a wholesale line. Basically, Art Story Moldova creates headbands and keychains and dolls and all these different things. And so we thought if we can market that to other shops around the U.S., then that creates more work from them. And so we've created a whole wholesale line of items that are all Art Story. And so I believe it's 32 or 33 states that they are in now. And so there's 2 in Canada. So it's been really cool to see kind of that process. And Sabrina has gone there, helped them pick out the fabric, helped them work on the design of things, different avenues. It's like not all of it is sewing. Sometimes they're painting, and then we can take the images of what they paint and turn it into a sticker or something like that. And so it's really just trying to be creative with what they're able to do, and kind of it's so helpful when we can go there and get to sit in the same room with them and see what they're doing and see what they've got to work with and kind of understand better the picture of what they're capable of. So.
Right. And thank you for sharing that, Mandy. And we mentioned that trafficking is not just something that happens overseas in these other countries, but it's something that can happen here in the U.S. and also locally. So if you want to share also about what New Creation is doing locally.
Sure. So as far as direct care, we don't really do direct care. We do partner with a lot of other organizations around the area, Stonehaven being one of them, Sydney. Just really excited about the possibilities there and what that will look like in the future. But we do have people who know women who are in a certain situation or whatever. We get people referred to us all the time. And so what we try to do is bridge resources. If we know of, something that will help them find a job or a place to stay or transportation, we've got different organizations around the area that we work with to try to help with those things. The main thing that we do locally is prevention education in schools. So we are currently in Page County middle and high schools. We're in Rockingham County high schools. Last year we just helped implement prevention education in Harrisonburg City middle schools, and then this school year that's starting now, they're starting in the high schools.
Nice.
And so when you round up your change at checkout or when you donate to our mission, that's where the money goes, is prevention education. So we fund the curriculum that is brought to the schools, and then we connect with the school board, the faculty and staff, the teachers to teach that curriculum. In the beginning, we were trying to, Sabrina would run around to all the schools and try to do these kind of awareness things, but it was just, there's just too many schools for us to be able to do it all. It would take, our staff is not that big. And so utilizing the prevention project curriculum, we can have the teachers lead the curriculum, which middle school is 3 45-minute classes, high school is 6 45-minute classes. And so when the teachers lead it, it's there's someone who's already in that student's life. They're already seeing them on a daily basis. And so when you hear this information from somebody that you kind of already know and trust, I think it hits home a little bit more. And then also, on the flip side, when you come out of that class and feel I think my friend is experiencing this, or I think I'm experiencing this, or I'm struggling understanding whatever it was from the class, it's that there's someone there who's in their life, even if they are taught the curriculum by their health teacher, maybe they don't have a great relationship with their health teachers, but maybe they can go to their math teacher and say hey, we did this curriculum in this other class and I just really feel like I need to talk about it. And so I feel there's a lot of power in, it being teacher led. One of our goals is kind of to try to get into the in-service for the teachers kind of at the beginning, here's what we do, why we're here, here's a curriculum, so that you can be aware and kind of be more equipped to field those questions when they come.
So you've talked about some of the public schools that you're in. Are there Christian schools? Because, no one's immune to this. So I'm guessing that you do other schools as well?
Right. So we have been in Christian schools. I don't think we currently have any Christian schools that have implemented the prevention project on a consistent basis. But we do speaking engagements, awareness events, kind of talk to, like if they have a chapel or something like that, we'll go and do that. But certainly we are open.
Yeah, if anyone listening would like you all to come,
talk
I know
to your
that
principal.
Yeah, I just think that in the world that we live in today, and I was just listening to something that Jim Caviezel, who played Jesus, I heard him on this interview, and he was talking about his sister wanted her daughter to walk home from school because she had that experience. And she wanted her daughter to have that experience. And he's like, you can't do that. We're in a different world.
It's not the world that you grew up in.
Right. That's what he said. It's not the world you grew up in. And it's like, I care a lot about this. I was, as a kid, almost abducted, walking home from school. And that was, let's talk about, what year would that have been? Maybe around 80. It's a few years ago. So when we talk about this being a local thing, like it gets real. And I think about like homeschool families, like what are they doing to raise awareness?
Right.
Because this is real, and it takes one moment for a life to be changed forever.
Right. Yeah. I mean, that hits home for me because my son is homeschooled. He does online school. And so part of me thinks that, oh yeah, I'm keeping him like from all these influences that he might have, in public school or Christian school or wherever he would go to school. But it certainly does not make him immune to anything. And the online presence of traffickers is so huge and growing. And, for him, he's about to be 14 and he's into music and writing music and putting it out there and whatever. And so all it takes is one person to show a little bit of interest, like, hey, I really like that song you made. Hey, maybe you could send me your whatever. And it's a very, very slippery slope. And actually, it's become a really, really big issue where, kids will think they're talking to, like a guy will think he's talking to a girl who's 15 and really it's a 50-year-old man who's really having, different plans than anyone intended. So the other thing is that we're so passionate about being in middle and high schools because right now the average age of a trafficking victim in the U.S. is 12 years old, which is a 7th grade middle schooler. And so, a lot of parents will push back and say, well, my kid doesn't need to hear this. They're too young. This is, so the reality is, 1, they're already talking about it in school. 2, they're already facing these kinds of issues. And it's like, if this is the average age is 12 years old, all we want to do is get ahead of it. Like the only way we're ever going to push back this issue and make a difference and make the greatest impact is if we get ahead of it, which is hard because then, it's like, you never know. You can't ever say like, oh, we rescued, we don't want to be the hero.
That's right.
We didn't rescue anybody. We just want to be on the front end saying like, we want you to be aware of these things. These are indicators. This is what you look out for. This is how to keep yourself safe. This is how to like watch out for your friends. And, it's like we want to be the preventive force that kind of knocks down the statistics. So
Yeah, I so believe in what you are doing, and I want our community to know that you're here, what you're doing. You can stop by anytime. You all are available. So if you want to talk a little bit about how people can get a hold of you, like what that looks like, contact information. And also I want you to share, I don't think people have any idea the things that you have in your shop. If I need to buy a gift for someone, guess where?
Oh, 100%.
Yeah. So anyway, getting ahead of myself, but go ahead.
The shop is actually a real problem for me. When I went to work there, John was like, are you going to buy something every day? I was like, well,
it's for a good cause.
It's fine. It's so helpful. It's doing so much good. So yes, there are a lot of ways you can get plugged in. Please come visit us. We're 3051 South Main Street in Harrisonburg. The shop is open Monday through Saturday. We would love to see you. We've got all kinds of things, everything from candles to housewares to jewelry to spa items. We even have a guys section.
Yes. I just bought from there.
Some clothing. We've got handbags. We've got cards. We've got stickers. We've got chocolate,
devotional
coffee,
books.
devotionals. I mean,
It's
what
endless.
else could you need, right? So we are at our physical location Monday through Saturday. You can also find us online. Our website is newcreationva.org. Just one creation. A lot of people like to say new creations,
Oh, yeah.
which we are, but
Yeah.
for the website, it won't take you to the right place. We're also on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok every once in a while. That's a whole beast. I can't get on board really with that.
Yeah.
But so yeah, you can find us here and there doing awareness events. We're at the SIPE Center not too long ago talking about internet safety, and so you can kind of follow us on social media to figure out where we'll be and what we're doing.
Yeah. So, what does the future look like for New Creation?
Yep. So we are really excited to continue our partnerships and continue with prevention education. We are we just had a meeting last week with another school district, and so hoping to implement that would be it would be a big number of students, and so that would be really great if that would work out. As far as plans for New Creation, we have some really exciting stuff on the horizon that we can't say a whole lot about yet, but we're just really excited. We know that the Lord is asking us to kind of go beyond what we're comfortable with and kind of push forward. And so stay tuned. There's some really exciting things coming. So we're looking forward to that.
We're excited about that. Just to hear about that, and maybe we can, when the time is right,
Sure.
you can come back and you can share more about. But yeah, I hope today that as people listen, if something sparks something inside of them, ways that they can partner. Would you like to talk about that just for a minute? Like ways they can partner. I'm sure prayer is going to be probably the first thing you say.
Yeah, prayer is huge. I mean, we know that when we feel helpless and we feel like we don't know what to do and how to proceed and what the next step is, that the Lord knows, and that we can go to Him and ask Him for direction and guidance and wisdom. And so, we covet your prayers, and that's something that our team relies heavily on. And so, it's great when we know that there's a community of people around us doing the same thing. Talk to your school board, your principal. If you want to see prevention education in your schools, I mean, you can be an advocate for that, for your child in their school. A lot of times you can get to people that we can't necessarily get to. They won't take our meeting or whatever. So when it comes from a parent, sometimes it means a little more. You can always donate to our mission. There's a donate button on our website. And then, those donations go toward our partnerships, towards prevention education, towards keeping our mission going. And so that's helpful as well.
That's good.
Yeah.
Okay. Mandy, thank you for joining us today, and thank you for the work you all are doing there at New Creation. Just in closing, anything else that we haven't asked you already or that you haven't shared already, or anything that you can share that's bringing you hope right now with the work of New Creation?
Yeah, so I think since going to work there, I've kind of gotten a little bit of the behind the scenes of what New Creation does that we can't always be super public about. And so I've seen women come and find resources and find hope and find a better life. And, it's not that we've saved them or we've done all the work, but them getting connected with us, it's like we have this pool of resources where we can say, let me call so-and-so and see if they've got anything available, or, and so I think just obviously we want to be careful with how public we are about that information, but just really seeing how we're not just selling cute stuff in the shop, and we're not just going to your school and telling you stuff you shouldn't do.
Right.
We're actually impacting lives and making a difference. And so that's been really cool to see.
Yeah. I believe through you all listening to the Lord and following Him, you are reflecting His light to others, which is in turn really being a light to the world and a light to those who are coming out of that darkness and finding hope. So thank you for what you're doing.
Mandy, thanks again for joining us today. It's been great to have you.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It's been fun.
Thank you for listening to today's broadcast of Hope Talks. We pray that as we've talked with Mandy Lawson today about New Creation, that it truly has been a half hour of hope for your life. May God bless.
Hope Talks is sponsored by Church of the Nazarene Harrisonburg in partnership with Sunshine Ministries.
Thanks for listening to today's podcast of Hope Talks. If you enjoyed the podcast, please subscribe for updates and the latest episodes. Also, if you're in the Harrisonburg-Rockingham County area, we invite you to listen on the radio each Sunday at noon on 1470 AM or 102.1 FM WBTX.